Hi there, welcome to my channel. This is my video for shed studio build from start to finish that was completed just before Christmas of last year and commenced in February 2022. I purchased a shed at Elford's in Chichester, and it was a 12-foot by 10-foot size room, and I felt that was ample really for a recording room at the bottom of the garden. I hadn't really done anything like this before, so I had to do a lot of research. I went for a concrete base obviously prior to this. It was mainly to house my bases, and I wanted to design a room that looked similar to some of the ones that I'd seen on Instagram, so things like, you know, LEDs, studio monitors and acoustic panels, things like that. And yeah, it was really to come away from doing the videos I was doing for years playing jazz funk 80s stuff in the kitchen. So this is the sort of thing I went for. That was the desk. That was kind of the colour scheme. I went for the walls with LEDs in the corners. And yeah, I've set up quite a nice recording monitoring room, and it's I'm really pleased with it. And this is really the story of how that started and finished. So the shed was placed, as I say, by the end of February 2022. This is what it looked like at the beginning, with nothing as a complete shell. So I started researching things like Celotex and Rockwall and the soundproofing elements, and a lot of stuff came and went, things like heat exchangers, because I didn't want to drill through the walls. I went for a cheap dehumidifier option, and I'll come to that later because there's been no moisture after 18 months whatsoever. Went for a breathable membrane to start off with, Tecsound SY50 for the soundproofing, and RWA45 for the Rockwall in the walls. It was all delivered by about April, May 2022. At this point, I was like, I need some room for my amp, so that stayed in the house while this was being built. And suggestions for decoupling and room within a room just couldn't fit that in with a room of this size. Impossible, really. So I started to work on the membrane and the RWA45. And I think this was by about the July, August. So I went on holiday to get a clear head. Did a couple of wedding gigs, and by the time these were finished, I come back with a real sort of fresh mindset to go and get the work done. So by this point, in the September time, we got the RWA45 in the walls. Hadn't quite got the ceiling right yet, but this was everything put outside. That was a Tecsound on the floor there. That stuff was so heavy to move around. But yeah, the fitting, they're all fitting quite snug. All the joists were quite close together in this shed. I then went and got 18mm moisture resistant chipboard flooring, put the joists in the floor, cut up the Celotex, which was 50mm thick, with the help of my dad. And that stuff, when you cut it up, that went everywhere in the garden. It was like snow, to be honest. And then the chipboard obviously went on top of the Celotex and removed like all the bounce in the floor, which was nice. That's the Tecsound, and that was awful to lift. Had a bit of an issue with the corners. Some gaps appeared, so I just bought this wire mesh stuff that I bought on Amazon, which was fairly cheap and you could cut to size. I'll put the links in the description. And then we got to work with the Rockwall in the ceiling. We kept that up there with just like sort of loose string. And then my friend Michael come over and we put the first layer of plasterboard in the ceiling and wrapped the Tecsound underneath that, which was sandwiched in between another plasterboard element. That was the desk that I went for, and then I set to work with doing the first layers of plasterboard, which was supplied by one of my neighbours. We then did the wood for the consumer unit to be attached to, which looks like this. And then we set to work finishing the Tecsound and then applying the interior plasterboard for the ceiling. So at this point, we also had to reinforce the corners, as you can see there in the corner there with the wood. And then we curved the wiring so that the consumer unit could actually fit. That was quite difficult to do. But anyway, we managed to get the interior plasterboard done prior to the really cold weather, and this was about November 2022, and then we started on the interior plasterboard. I want to shout out to my neighbour Zach, who really helped out me with this, because I never would have done this on my own, and he pretty much did all of that interior plasterboarding. And then once that was completed, I started to make way with the filling and the sanding, which I'd no prior experience doing this before, but I think it turned out all right. We got the consumer up and ready, the consumer unit up and ready for the lights. I just went for 4 down lights, one in each corner, and then I started to do the rest of the filling and then sanding, which was a process that took a few weeks. And then I did some California patching, which is a video I found on YouTube, which was interesting, which I quite enjoyed doing, to be honest, for some of the holes that were in the walls. And then this video was taken about a year after the first starting point. So this was about February 2023. The kids started wanting to get involved now because they could see that this room was developing. Shout out to my mate Dan, who provided this fire door. There was a bit of an issue with water coming in from the rain at the top because that lip didn't protrude enough, so I just bought something that made that come out further and then stuck a layer of membrane there. You can just about see that there in that shot, but we've had no issues with water since then. And then the remaining layers or rolls, I should say, of the Tecsound SY50 I put onto the floor. And when we put that down, you would not believe the reduction in echo straight away. You look up videos of that and it's amazing stuff, extremely heavy, but well worth the money. As I said earlier, my kids wanted to get involved, so they started doing the priming of the walls. I went for 3 shades of grey of Diamond Eggshell from Dulux. Really, it was expensive, but really good quality. And I wanted the design to look something similar to this that I'd seen when I researched it. And yeah, so this was the ceiling paint, which was, I forget the name of it, it was Raven something. And it had this hint of blue in it. It was a beautiful colour. Really, really good quality. You're meant to do like sort of 3 layers of the stuff. So we primed the walls. I did the ceiling in that Raven colour. And then the 3 of the walls were going to be of a certain shade of grey as such. And then there was going to be a feature wall of which the desk would be in front of. And this was the kids helping with said feature wall with a lighter grey colour. And as these show, that there was, I think it was like 2 or 3, no, there was 3 layers of paint that was on those. And then ultimately it was then ready for the flooring to be done. And this flooring, unbelievable really. This was from B&M. It was £12 for every 7 sheets that was about sort of 1 foot by 3 foot, something like that, maybe smaller than that. But anyway, so the shed looked like this as at the beginning of the video, and it ended up looking like that. So not too bad. So by this time, needed another holiday. Added a bit of colour to this video. I think this was in Fuerteventura, and by the time I'd come back, I'd done my last base video in the kitchen. Ended up selling that base as well. And this was the first LED option I went for, which was quite cheap, to be honest. It was about 18 quid's worth, but it wasn't that great. And then I bought this Tapo one, which was like 60 quid for 2 rolls of 5 metre. That's the cheaper one. And then this next one you'll see is the Tapo Wi-Fi one, and the quality, the difference was just huge. I had one like this at one end of the room, and I had a Bluetooth one at the other end. Just want to mention something about the dehumidifier. This was an Aero 360 that I bought on Amazon for about 18 quid. Probably the best 18 quid I spent on the shed. I've had no issues with moisture at all. And I wish I could kind of prove that, but you just empty the thing, there's no power to it, and it costs relatively nothing to buy those little capsule things. This was the conduit that I put into the corners of the LED, so the LEDs could stick inside. Really good quality, really easy to cut and fit, as you can see, and I actually think that worked out quite well, because when you see the bare LEDs, it just doesn't look that great. And then it was sort of my birthday time. This is like July 2024. And then, sorry, July 2023, what am I talking about? And that's what the studio desk looked like. You get it from Thomann. I think it's about 300 quid. Really good quality. And yeah, ultimately the design took shape. I thought the colours of the walls were pretty good. My kids love going in there and playing the Xbox, etc. There's my HS7s. And yeah, the design of the room is exactly what I kind of hoped for. And then really the finishing touch was the acoustic panels, which I designed of wood and just filled it up with the remaining RW45 I had. By this point, my Jaydee bass was ready for collection. I couldn't wait for that. It had been a couple of years in the making. And I'd also finished the acoustic panels in the wall and the ceiling, which reduced the echo, and the sound was pretty good. Just want to take this moment to send my condolences to the Diggins family, who sadly lost founder John in January of this year. He made a fantastic bass for me, and yeah, sending all my love. Thank you very much. As you can see, this is the end result of the room, really. Hope Hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you some incentive if anybody wanted to buy, to make a recording studio and dispel the myth that it couldn't be done in a wooden shed. As you can see, I was pretty happy with the end result. I've had it 18 months. I've had no issues with moisture. Yeah, that's one of my recordings there. And yeah, I think the end result I've been pretty happy with. Any questions, comments or suggestions or whatever, just give me a shout and I'll see you out. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe and all that. All the best. Cheers.